What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about another film that was released last year that I didn't get the opportunity to see right away. It got a relatively limited release in a few theaters, and I finally got the opportunity to check this movie out. And this is a Finnish film from a director who has a very lengthy catalog. He's made quite a few movies. I have never seen one of his films before, so this was my first exposure to his work. And I'm very excited to tell you about this film today. And the movie I'm going to be discussing with you is Fallen Leaves. Fallen Leaves is directed by Aki Kaurismäki. The film tells the story of Ansa, a supermarket shelf stocker on a 0-hour contract, later a recyclable plastic sorter, and Halapa, a sandblaster, an alcoholic, later an ex-alcoholic, whose paths have accidentally crossed and who, despite adversity and misunderstandings, try to build some kind of relationship on the harsher side of the welfare state. So, as I said, this director has a very lengthy catalog. I've never seen any of his work before, so this was my first exposure to his work. Very excited to check this movie out, and I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's very short, simple, sweet, comedic. There's a lot of great things going for it. I do think sometimes the film can be too simple, and I also think the runtime is a little bit short to where I feel like the total emotional payoff wasn't as impactful as I was hoping that it would be, but I don't think it detracts from the fact that this movie is a really enjoyable viewing experience, and I'm excited to tell you a little more about it today. So at the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Ansa, who is working at a grocery store, stocking shelves. It seems like she pulls the expired product off the shelves. All the people working at the grocery store have a watchful eye on all these employees. They're trying to make sure that they're not stealing even the expired product. And we see her go home to her apartment, and she lives in a very small apartment. When she opens her fridge, you can tell there's not very much in it. She's struggling just to make enough money to be able to buy meals for herself. And we can tell early on she lives a very lonely existence. She's just trying to fight for survival, as so many people are in this world, working day to day just to make ends meet so that we can have a place to live. And simultaneously, we're introduced to Halapa, who is a sandblaster. He works with all this heavy machinery and equipment, and he is in a very similar circumstance, working a job where he's making just enough to get by. It's shown early on he's living in this place with a bunch of these other men just so that they can have enough money to survive. And one night he goes to karaoke with one of his friends, and during karaoke he sees Ansa. The two of them have a very brief conversation, and then they just go their separate ways. And throughout the film, they consistently change jobs. They have things pop up in their lives, but somehow the two of these characters continue to meet. And the entirety of the film is these two characters building this unlikely relationship amidst just trying to navigate the difficulties in living in like a welfare state with virtually no money. So as I said, I thought this movie was really short, simple, sweet, and I liked it a lot. For starters, the performances, our two lead actors in this film do a really fantastic job. The film has a very deadpan nature to it, which I really appreciate. I'm not sure if this director's other work falls into the same category, but the way the dialogue is delivered reminded me a lot of like Wes Anderson or Yorgos Lanthimos, where dialogue is delivered in this very flat and naturalistic way. So there's a lot of ridiculous lines that are said that are overly comedic, and I think they work because of the way that the dialogue is delivered. And it's not done in like a super elevated way like Lanthimos or Wes Anderson. It has its own unique edge to it, which I really appreciated, because the movie is looking at a very difficult subject matter, which is people struggling to survive and living in a welfare state, jumping from job to job and just trying to make enough to live. And it's a very hard thing that a lot of people have to deal with. And so I like that the director was able to give a comedic edge to the film and have a lot of sequences that provided laughter and comedy. It really helped the film work as a whole. I really liked the cinematography in this film. It's very simple, but there's a lot of really beautiful shot sequences in this. It's a very dull, muted tone, but very intentionally, because the film is supposed to feel cold and isolating, and I think the cinematography cinematography complements that mood really well. Both of our characters are dealing with something very different. Ansa's character is dealing with loneliness. She wants companionship. She wants someone to talk to, and she also just wants to be able to make enough money to live to where she's not worrying about where her next meal's coming from. Palapa, on the other hand, is dealing with alcohol abuse. He's constantly drinking. He gets let go from his first job because he's constantly drinking on the job. And so he's dealing with the same type of thing, but he also has this alcohol abuse on top of it. And so both characters are really interesting, and they each have a unique background. And when they come into each other's lives, you can tell it's that they're excited to just find someone to talk to and to share time with. And I think for so many people, that's just the reality we get in our day-to-day lives. We get caught up in work and we get caught up in different things, and it's hard to take a minute to kind of pull back and just try to appreciate those moments that you have to be able to do things you like, or to not think about work or not think about those struggles. And one of the other things I like that the director put into this film is that there's a ton of scenes with Ansa's character turning the radio on and hearing these reports about Russia and Ukraine and what's going on in the background. And I loved the way that it was incorporated, because it's so true. Even someone like myself who lives in the United States, anytime you turn the news on, something insane is happening in our country, and your life still has to go on despite the fact that all these crazy things are happening and you're hearing about it, and it's infuriating, but there's not necessarily anything that you can do in that moment to change things drastically. And I like the way the director was able to incorporate these really heavy world events that are going on amidst the chaos of your own life, because that's so true for so many people. And I really like the way that was presented. I'd say if I had any issues with this movie, and I don't normally catch myself saying this, there are moments that it's almost too simple. There's a reference to Jim Jarmusch in this. They go watch The Dead Don't Die at a movie theater. And I feel like there are elements of Jarmusch all over this film, specifically Patterson, which is a very slice of life film, or some of the movies earlier on in his catalog. And I really like that style, and I love when you can tell a story without having to add super heavy emotional stakes for it to be able to work. The problem is the first 20 minutes of this movie, 25 minutes, takes a really long time to kind of get going and establish the characters totally, to where you're getting a lot of scenes with them at their jobs. And I understand trying to establish this naturalistic feeling and make you really feel like these are just people living their day-to-day lives. But the movie's only an hour and 20 minutes, so you don't get a whole lot of time after these characters meet to kind of get to know more about them in a way that pays off emotionally in a very full way. You get a payoff emotionally that works. I had a big smile on my face at the end of this film. I really liked the direction that it went, but I kept thinking to myself, if this had like 20 more minutes attached onto it, it could have felt like a fuller project and it would have been more satisfying. But I don't think that takes away from the fact that this movie is really enjoyable, and it's saying something about just the difficulty of getting through day-to-day life and the importance of having someone that you can spend your time with and having someone who you can share experience with, because life's hard on your own just to survive. And I loved that simple message that the film was trying to convey, on top of everything else I said, with the beautiful cinematography and the really fantastic performances. And I really enjoyed this movie a lot, and I think if you get the chance to check it out, you 100% should. So have you seen Fallen Leaves? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was really solid. I liked it a lot, and despite the flaws that I think that the movie has, I still really enjoyed myself watching it. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.